Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute and we're not doing makeup today, obviously, since I'm sitting in my bed. We're not doing makeup today. We have a very different video planned, but it is a video that is near and dear to me and to my heart, and yeah, I feel like it's a video that I would like to make, not on a yearly basis, but maybe, I don't know, we'll see how this one goes. This will probably be a longer video, and if you don't really like watching story times, or like life videos, this might not be it for you. However, this video is it for me. And I feel like it's something I need to do to really help others and potentially help myself kind of grow a little more. And yes, so here we are. I have not filmed in a hot minute. I've just been taking time to myself, worrying about myself, putting myself first. And yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about today's video, shall we? It is no secret on my channel, obviously, or if you follow me and if you know me in real life. I was diagnosed with cancer in December of 2018. The day you are watching this will be the 1-year anniversary since I was diagnosed, which is December 4th. I wanted to make a video finally really talking about it all. I know in my story time, like what happened to me, I touched on it, but it wasn't like in depth about it. And I feel like an in-depth video might explain a little more. And I will, disclaimer, I am not a doctor. So please do not take my symptoms and run with it. If you are concerned, please go see an actual doctor. What my symptoms presented themselves as may be very different for you. And it could mean something very different also. So yes, just want to put that out there and make sure no one takes my symptoms and self-diagnose themselves, because that would be bad. But I feel like talking, I mean, I talk about it all the time, but I talk about it all the time because I feel like it's part of the healing process. And I'm sure people in my life are so tired of me being like, oh, my cancer, my cancer. If you are like that, please remove yourself from my life. A lot of people, I can understand when, like, if someone breaks their leg and then all they talk about is their broken leg. I get it. You don't want to hear about someone talk about their broken leg for hours and hours and hours. However, it is cancer, something that kills thousands upon thousands of people, and I survived it. Like, I did that. And if you are ever tired of hearing me talk about it, like, then clearly you don't care about me. But that's okay. It's a different story for a different time. My diagnosis is a big part of who I am. And it's not something I want to hide. It's not something I want to act like never happened. Because it did happen. I have a tattoo on my arm. Like, I'm not trying to hide it. It, as weird as it sounds, cancer saved my life. And I know that sounds crazy because technically cancer can, like, end your life. But, cancer really saved my life. And I can really 100% say that without a doubt. I wanted to sit down, obviously not standing, and finally really just talk about everything that happened and just be more in depth about it versus when I was doing my makeup and I was like, oh, this, and this. So the journey all begins on December 2nd, technically. December 2nd was the day I woke up and had these pains. But in order to really get a better understanding about all that, we need to go about 3 weeks prior to that. So I was having really, really bad abdominal pains for about like 3 weeks prior. Well, it was abdominal pains on my right side. So it was about, for 3 weeks prior, starting 3 weeks prior, the pain got more obvious. every time I tried to sit up, it was like someone was stabbing a knife into the center of my stomach. Even though the pain was always to the right, when I like sat up or used my core muscles, it was right in the center. When I would twist or do something like that, it was right in the center. I also noticed I was gaining like ridiculous amounts of weight, and it was very, very unusual. And I didn't know what it was. At first, I thought I was just maybe eating like horribly, and that was like all it was. But then it was like the pain was so bad I wasn't eating, and yet I was still continuing to gain so much weight. And like I was gaining weight for like a year prior to that, but all of a sudden it picked up. Like I gained 7 pounds in a week. A week. 7 pounds in 7 days. That's literally a pound a day. Like, and I wasn't eating. So like the dots were not connecting in my head. Like, why was I gaining this weight if I wasn't eating? I wasn't working out either, so maybe it was just me being lazy, and maybe it was just what I was eating wasn't good. It just didn't make sense. So I ignored it. After about a week and a half, the pain spread from right to left, so it was my entire lower abdominal at that point. It was just horrible. It wasn't like an excruciating pain, but it was enough to make me like really notice how bad it was. And I still continued to ignore it. So my first mistake here is obviously ignoring the signs and not being like, wow, I should really see a doctor about this, or wow, maybe I should tell my mom, or wow, I should like tell someone, and I didn't. And that is probably the number one mistake, and something I'm going to advise all of you please to not do is do not ignore what your body is telling you. Your body knows when something is wrong, and my body was trying to tell me there was something wrong. Do something, and I continued just be like, oh, it's cool. It's just like period pains. Oh, it's just I eat something shitty. Oh, I'm just constipated. Like, I continued to ignore it, and like I said, your body knows. And if something does not feel right, and you like have this gut feeling that it's not right, talk to a doctor or anyone. Just don't go on WebMD. So on December 1st, my mom had a friend over. She made this really, really nice dinner, and I barely ate any of it. Same with Thanksgiving, because I was having these pains over Thanksgiving. I barely ate the Thanksgiving food, and which sucks because I love Thanksgiving food. My mom's one of the best cooks in the whole world, and I barely got to eat any, which is very depressing, but it's fine. So my mom made this really nice dinner, and I ate more than I would say I was eating at that time, but I just got full very quick, which is actually is one of the symptoms of ovarian cancer, is getting full quickly. And I ate, but I got full, but then I kept eating a little more because I thought like I felt bad. And then we watched a movie. We watched Polar Express actually, and drank hot cocoa. And then we went to sleep. I ended up sleeping downstairs in my mom's room that night. My room, I need to dust it, and I'm very allergic to dust, and so my room was not dusted, and I did not want to have an allergy attack. So I slept downstairs in my mom's room, which I think is honestly a blessing, because I would have been upstairs by myself if that happened. Well, what happened, I would have been upstairs by myself, and that would have been really bad. So we went to sleep. The only other weird symptom I was really having besides the weight gain and the abdominal pains was like I had to pee more than I usually do. And like granted, I have a very small bladder. Like I pee a lot. It's not a secret. But like, oh my god, I literally could not stop peeing. Like, could not stop peeing. More than I usually peed. And it was like super concerning. I mean, it wasn't concerning. It was just weird how much I had to pee. Like I was losing sleep because I had to pee that much. So super strange. Didn't know why it was happening, but it was. Really early in the night, so I just had to pee. And I went to the bathroom and went back to sleep, no problem. I woke up again at around 5 a.m. and this was on December 2nd at this point. And I was laying on my left side, I was laying on my right side, and I tried to roll over to my left side, and I had this horrible horrible stabbing pain in my abdominal area, and I literally have never, ever experienced pain like that before. Literally worst pain I've ever had in my entire life. It was like, there are no words to describe how bad it was. It was my entire like chest, abdomen. I couldn't breathe because my shoulder was hurting, and it was just horrible. And I didn't know what was going on. And I kept trying to roll over, but every time I tried to twist, it was just, and the knife was twisting in there. And I know that's a really graphic description, but that's like the only way I can describe it. And it was just, I just like literally could not even like find the words to describe the pain. Anyways, eventually I rolled over somehow. I got up, instantly wanted to faint, like instantly. I just black. Didn't faint. It was just one of those, like, when you stand too fast and then like it all just goes dark, but then it comes back and you're still like conscious. Yeah. I got to the bathroom. I thought I was gonna throw up. The pain was so bad. So I peed, and then I sat on the bathroom floor and just had my head in the toilet. And then my mom, I remember she woke up and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think I'm gonna throw up." I just sat there, and eventually I didn't throw up at all. But I fell asleep on the floor again because I found a position where the pain was tolerable, and I fell asleep. My mom came like 2 hours later, and she got me off the floor and brought me back into bed and was like, I told her like something's wrong, and like she was like, you know what, if it still hurts, because it could have been a million things, and honestly, I have a high pain tolerance. However, I am very accident prone, and every little pain and ache I have, I'm always like, something's wrong. Now even more so, I'm like that. But my mom was like, let's just go back to sleep, and then if it still hurts in the morning, we'll go. So I was like, all right, no, it's fine. I fell back asleep, and I woke up at like 11:30, and the pain was still there. It wasn't any worse. It was just still there. And so I couldn't move, so I called my mom, and I was like screaming her name, not screaming, but like yelling for her, because like she was in the other room. And she came in, and she was like, is it any better? And I was like, no, it still really hurts. And so we called. She was like, all right, you know, something's clearly not right. Let's go to the emergency room. And so she called, because in Texas, like, there are emergency rooms, and then there's also like the little urgent cares. And urgent cares, it's like if it's a cold, you know, something super minor. But she called, and she was like, is this something we can go to you guys for, or is this something we should go to an ER for? And they're like, honestly, it sounds like her appendix. I'll go to the ER because they can do all that. So we went to the ER. Got to the ER. ER was a whole mess. That's the one topic I will not talk about, because that ER was, when I got moved to the actual hospital floor, it was wonderful. But that entire ER experience was absolutely horrific. Like, I'm not gonna name the emergency room, but like, literally. And like, I don't go to a lot of emergency rooms, but that was just something else, let me tell you. Basically, like, they did tests, whatever. They did a CT scan. I'm not gonna talk about what made that emergency room so horrible, but I'm just gonna like talk about the tests we did. Basically, we did like a CT scan, some blood tests, X-rays, and I think we did one more other thing, but I don't know what it was. And the CT scan came back, my appendix was perfectly fine, so it wasn't bad. But it showed that there was a cyst on my ovary. And they were like, it could be bleeding, could have burst, which is why you're in so much pain. And we need to do more tests to figure this out. So we were like, cool, we'll do some more tests. After another test of, like, I think it was an ultrasound, the cyst turned into a mass. But we weren't sure if it was cancerous or not. So they did blood tests, and they took blood and looked for these things called tumor markers. Basically, it's just their tests that indicate whether there's cancer in your body, and that's the easiest way to describe it, really. I'm sure if there's any doctors watching this, you're probably all like, you're an idiot, that's wrong. But that's how it was described to me. I know there's more in-depth types of tumor markers, but we're not going to go into that because I don't even know about that. So we did these blood tests, and we have to wait for some of the results back because they had to get sent out. They weren't something we could do in the hospital. So they went ahead and they put me in a room to monitor the pain and help keep the pain tolerable. Basically just lots of drugs. And so that was a Sunday. So December 2nd was a Sunday. December 3rd was a Monday, obviously. I stayed Sunday to Monday in this hospital on the women's floor, and that floor was wonderful. The nurses and the doctors were so nice, and I wish I remembered some of their names. I could go back and be like, hi, what's up? But I didn't. So Monday, they told me that I'm gonna get transferred to the hospital which I did chemo at, which is a very popular hospital. It's Baylor Hospital, and because I needed surgery, but the hospital I was at didn't have an gynecologist. No, didn't have a gynecologist oncology team. Yes, and they wanted to have that on call in case the tumor was cancerous. So I got transferred Monday night to Baylor, and the ambulance ride was horrible. You literally feel every bump and everything in the back of an ambulance. It was just something else. And so we got to Baylor. I'm put on the urology floor just because that was the room they had, and I just needed to be put there. And then Tuesday came, and Tuesday was December 4th, and that is 1 year ago today. I don't even know where to start with December 4th. It was a whirlwind. My grandparents flew in very early that morning. I needed to have surgery, but I wasn't scheduled, so it was kind of like wherever I could be fit in. And so all day it was very, is it my turn? Is it today? Are we going to do it today? Is it to wait? Every time my nurse came in, it was like, are there any updates? I was scared. Is it my turn? Is it, what's going on? So all day I really laid in bed, and I showered that day. It was very hard to cope, and it was very hard to sit there and just wait. It's scary when you don't know what's going on in your body and why your body is just not working when your body should be working. It was terrifying. Around 4:30, the nurse came in and was like, hey, they can fit you in. They're going to come up and get you in a half hour. And so I instantly was like, cool, I have time to call my dad, call my brother, call the guy I was dating, and not say my goodbyes, but when you're going into surgery, especially when it's this, I was extra scared because I've had 2 wrist surgeries and I wasn't scared, but when it came to what was going on here, it scared me. So I was, I had to use the bathroom, make all those phone calls, take my piercings out, and then all of a sudden they're there in 5 minutes. Literally, I thought I had a half hour, and they're already they're outside my room with a bed, and I'm freaking out. I'm calling my dad, taking my piercings out, just freaking out, and they weigh me down, and we all go downstairs. They have me in that little pre-op room, sign all the paperwork, explain what the procedure is gonna be about, hear all the things you don't want to hear, potential death, potential risks, and things that could go wrong. And like I said, everything you don't want to hear. And you know, you just sit there and like hold it all together. Even though the guy's like, oh, you could die from this, you could die from this, you could die from this. And I was like, great. I signed my paperwork because I was 18. They gave me that little cocktail of drugs and said my adieus and got me go back to the ER, or the operation room. I want to say I remember switching tables, but any conversation I had with any of the nurses, I don't remember. I kind of remember the ER, or not the ER, the operation room. But it just kind of all goes dark. I remember waking up in the recovery room, and I was in so much pain. Like when I woke up, I didn't know where the incisions were. To me, where the pain was, I thought I had, for some reason, I thought I had an incision here and an incision here. Does that make sense? No. But when you're super groggy, like it is, sure. And so, really thought that's what it was. They had to my understanding, the nurse told me that the drugs they were giving me were so strong, they're going to be administered like either every 15 minutes or something like that. Because I remember every time I told her I was in pain, she gave me something more. And again, I was so in and out and so like barely there that I could be totally wrong on that. I remember just being in pain, and I remember just having to get medicine all the time and crying because the pain was so bad and not knowing what was going on. Previous to surgery, the doctors and the nurses had told me, like, if the mass has spread to, because the mass was attached to my right ovary. They said if the mass had spread to my left one, they'd probably have to take everything. So a complete hysterectomy. And I was terrified of that because I want my own kids when I'm older, and I want to have my own family. And I know adoption is always there, and you know, blood doesn't make family, but when you have, it's one thing to choose to not have your own kids, and another thing to have that opportunity taken away from you. And for some reason, don't know why, when I came out of the recovery room and met my mom, my first question was, did they take it all? And she said no. And to me, I don't know why that meant I didn't have cancer, but to me it did. And so I was like, oh my god, I'm good, I'm not cancerous, it's good. And so I remember being in like the post-recovery room, and I was just like happy and dandy because I was like, oh, I don't have cancer. And I remember, well, rewind all of that. They moved me to the post-recovery room. I remember watching my mom and my family walk in, and I don't really remember my mom's expression. Like, I genuinely don't have any recollection of what her face looked like. I just know I was really happy to see her, and I cried when I saw her. And that's when I asked her, like, hey, what's up? Did I take it all? And when she told me no, I was like, oh, so I don't have cancer. And then I remember the doctor, who was just like the general doctor, I think, came in and he held my hand and he told me, you do have cancer. Pathology results are back, it is cancerous. And I honestly don't remember what I did. I think I cried. I say I think because when you get news like that, you're just kind of like numb. Like, it doesn't feel real. And even to this day, a year later, and I still don't believe it's real sometimes. Even though there's pictures, there's proof, I have the scars, I have the damage to my body, internally and externally. It's all there. But it just doesn't feel real. and it's definitely difficult to cope with. And yeah, so got transferred to my room in the T. Boone Pickens Hospital. That's where I did all my chemo treatments. Stayed there till Friday, so I had surgery on a Tuesday. Friday, I was determined to get out of that hospital because I wanted to go home. It was almost Christmas. Not almost, it was the beginning of Christmas season. And the last place I wanted to be was a hospital. And the last thing I wanted to hear was that I had cancer. So I was getting everything I didn't want all in one. I went home Friday and just stayed at home until I got my stitches out and talked about the chemo treatment. We did get a second opinion from a children's doctor because I was 18, which is in that really weird gray area where you're technically an adult, but you're also technically a child. Like I said, we got a second opinion from a pediatric oncologist, and he told me basically the same thing my doctor did. Only thing he recommended was doing 3 rounds of chemo first, and then see how it is after the 3rd round. But he told me like if I refuse treatment, he's not sure how much longer I would live. He said maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, tops a year. And when you are 18 years old, there is nothing more terrifying than hearing that your life will be over in a year, tops. And it just strikes you so hard when you hear something like that. So hard. Because a lot of times, like, we all know death is real. We all know it happens around us every day. We are surrounded by it. But at the same time, it just seems like something in your imagination. Like, to me, I always forget that, death is at the end of all this. Like, sometimes it just, living feels like part of a video game. It doesn't feel real. And then all of a sudden, when you're faced with the fact that you would be dead in a year from now, it just horrifying, absolutely horrifying. And death is one of my top biggest fears. Top biggest fears. When I think about death, it sends me into like a pure panic. Hearing that, just like, did me in. I didn't cry. It just really hits you. Really, really hits you. And you really, really see how fragile life is. So I started chemo. I got my port put in. No, hold on. Let me look at a calendar. I got my port put in on the 17th, and I started chemo on the 18th. Yeah. So my port basically, y'all probably seen it. This little scar right here. It's basically a little plastic piece that goes in your chest and has a tube that comes up into the vein into your neck, and that vein goes down to your heart. So when you do chemo, you get a needle stuck right in here, and that way the chemo is administered. It goes in, the port brings it into your heart, and your heart disperses it through your body. And yeah, so that's how mine worked. My chemo rounds, I did 4 rounds in total. We did stop after round 3 to see how everything looked, and my doctor recommended we still do a 4th round. So we did. Basically, my rounds were each 3 weeks. The type of tumor I had was very, very aggressive. So a lot of people, when I say, oh, I was done in 12 weeks, they're like, oh, it must have not been that serious. First off, don't. I understand where you're coming from when you say that, but cancer is cancer. Like, what someone has to go through is hard no matter what. And so saying, oh, it must have not been that serious, or oh, it doesn't sound that bad, is just like the last thing any of us want to hear. Like, literally, the last thing. It's just like dismissing it almost. And that's, do not dismiss that sort of thing. I did 12 weeks. I had to do it very, very quickly. Like, some people, when they do their chemo, they do like a week of chemo and then they get like a month off or like a very long time off. I only got like 6 days tops as a break in between the 2nd and 3rd week. That was my only real break. Didn't get much time off other than that. So basically, each round, 3 weeks long. The first week I spent 5 days in the hospital receiving chemo for like 6 to 7 hours per day, probably. I did etoposide, cisplatin, and bleomycin. On the third day, I want to say I did all 3, but for the first like 5 days, for the first round, it's 5 days. Day out of 5 days, I did all 3 chemos, but 4 out of those 5 days, I just did the 2. Weeks 2 and 3 were outpatient, so I went into the hospital. I had to get blood work done, wait until they called my name, did the chemo, and then left. So all in all, it was probably like a 3-hour process. The chemo drip itself was only 30 minutes, but I just did bleomycin on weeks 2 and 3, and then we start over. I shaved my head before starting chemo because I didn't want to watch my hair fall out. You can see that in my video that I filmed. My hair still fell out because for some reason it grew as I was waiting for it to start falling out. It grew a little bit, like a little bit, and then it started to fall out, and it hurts to lose your hair. Like mine went in phases. At first it was just like itchy, and then it was like a burning sensation, and then it turned into a like painful. Like if I would touch it, it like hurt to move, and then as soon as it hurt, I could like pinch it and just pull. And I know that might freak a lot of people out, but that's exactly what happened. It was like one of those things I could literally just pull my hair and go like this, and it would just come out, and it was just not fun. Even though I really didn't have much hair to watch fall out, it was still hard because it would just go out in chunks. I remember I picked like a section of my hair in the back that was like this big. I pulled it all out, and I know it freaked my mom out, but I just couldn't stop pulling it. I don't know if it was just a coping mechanism, or I just kept pulling it and pinching it. But I also think it's because it hurt. I did my first round of chemo, and I got sent home the day before Christmas Eve. So I felt really sick Christmas Eve and Christmas. And I just feel like it made Christmas a little harder to enjoy. So it definitely makes Christmas a little harder for me to enjoy, I think, because I know it's this time of year. And I know a lot of people, there's different ways to look at it, and I am positive 360 days out of the year about the situation. And I'm allowed to have my few days where I just want to break down, I want to cry. And I understand people have different ways of looking at it, but one way that kind of dismisses how I feel is when people are like, but you survived it. You're right, I survived it, but I also endured it. And like, just because I survived doesn't mean I'm suddenly a whole new person. I am a whole new person, but for multiple reasons. And saying like, don't dwell on it. And like, because I've had people tell me, you survived, why are you dwelling on it? They're like, why are you dwelling on it? And it's like, why am I fucking dwelling on it? Pardon my French, but like, I'm not dwelling on it. I'm reflecting on a part of my life that literally changed my life. So like I said, I understand where you're coming from, because yes, I don't want to dwell on it. Yes, I should look at it as a time of being happy and not sad. Yes, I am strong. Yes, I'm all that. But like I said, I'm allowed to have my moments. And I feel like people forget that you need to like respect and understand that I don't dwell on it. I go days without thinking about it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, when I do want to dwell on it, allow me to. Just on my birthday, my dad came down and surprised me. And on my actual birthday, we ended up shaving most of my head because I just wanted the hair out. It was hurting. I didn't want to watch it fall out. It just hurt. So my dad shaved my head for me, completely bald. And then I just did my chemo. I got this rare syndrome called hand-foot syndrome. Basically, it's when the chemo leaks out of your capillaries in your hands and your feet and chemically burns you from the inside out. Very painful. I would say halfway through the third round, I was unconscious. I couldn't walk. My feet were blistered. They hurt. It was horrible. When I did my last chemo, in the fourth round, we went out to celebrate, and they called after I did my chemo. We were at a jewelry store, and they call and you're like, hey, your blood levels, like your white blood cell counts are pretty low, so be careful. And that just means my immune system is a little weaker than it normally already was. And some kid literally coughed 5 feet away from me, didn't cover his mouth. Less than 48 hours later, no, I literally had pneumonia the next day. I woke up a few hours later with a cough. So that was a Thursday. I woke up like Thursday night with a really bad cough. Friday I had a cough. Saturday I woke up and the cough was even worse. I had a really bad pain all right here and in my shoulder. Saturday night I was in the ER. Another thing, please teach your kids to cover their freaking mouth when they cough. Please. You don't realize who's around you. And if your kid isn't covering their mouth, you are literally exposing so many germs into that environment. And someone like me whose immune system was compromised and can't fight off that tiny little cough, literally their body just goes into crazy mode. So I felt like I was pretty good with not being hospitalized when I was doing chemo. I stayed in. I didn't go out. No one coughed around me. I just tried really hard to avoid all that. I did pretty good, apparently, until my last day, so my fault. So on March 19th of 2019, I got the call that I was officially in remission. My blood cell, my AFP, which is what the tumor markers for the type of tumor I had, were completely in the normal range, and I was all good. So ever since that day, I have been in remission. I don't like saying cancer-free just because you technically always have cancer in your body, but just whether or not it grows, yeah. I have been in remission since then, and here we are. Now, December of 2019. I just had my 9-month checkup, and my AFP levels dropped a little more than they did when I was officially in remission. So when I was in remission, they were in 2.8. That was the blood cell count that put me in remission. As of my 9-month checkup, they're at 2.3. Normal is between 0 and 6. My AFP before I had surgery was over 100,000. Post-surgery, I want to say was in the 30,000s, and then it just got lower and lower. I just realized when I had surgery, they didn't do a complete hysterectomy. Like I said, they only took my right ovary and the fallopian tube, so I still have the left one and my uterus and all that jazz. So, anyways, my AFP levels have dropped. So I'm still in the clear. Just had that 9-month checkup literally a week ago, and now here we are, 1 year later. And I feel like I have done so much this past year. So instead of talking about everything that I endured, I want to talk about some of the positives. In the summer, I went on a cruise to Alaska. Something we were really worried I wouldn't be able to do because we didn't know if I'd be done with chemo by that point. When we went on this cruise, I got to go to Germany for 5 weeks. When I was in Germany, I traveled with Gregor, and we went to the Czech Republic, went to Disneyland Paris together, and celebrated being in remission. Literally one of the best trips of my entire life, and so grateful for that entire trip. I went back to school, and I'm almost done with my first semester officially. I did my first semester before I was diagnosed, but I ended up in the hospital a week before finals week, so I didn't get to go to finals like everyone else did. But I'm going to finish this semester healthy and not in the hospital or from home. I have next semester all lined up. I'm working at Sephora, my dream job. I have some of the absolute best coworkers in the entire world. Some of the most amazing humans I have ever met. Their kindness is just so radiating. I have been eating super healthy and working out and taking care of my body, and I started this journey in September, and I have officially lost 23 pounds in a little over 2 months. So I was super happy about that, and I'm just happy. A year ago they always say there's a difference between living and surviving. Living, you're actually alive, doing what's good for you. And surviving, you're just going through the motions. And I feel like a year ago, I was just going through the motions. I wasn't happy. I wasn't I was just there, you know, I just felt like I was just there. Didn't really have a choice, just kind of had to do it. And I'm living now. I'm happy. I'm okay with who I am. I make YouTube videos. I do makeup. And if you're gonna judge me for my makeup, well then, bye. If you're gonna judge me for making YouTube videos, okay, go ahead. But you're wasting time that you could be bettering yourself or doing something you love to judge me. And really think about if you waste your time to judge someone else, you should step back and reevaluate your life. And that's all I'll say on that. That's all I'll say on that. That's all I'll say on that. I'm just happy. And I know I've said that, and I'm going to keep freaking reiterating that. Because I'm happy and healthy. I survived what I can say I survived, and some people don't get the chance to say that. And it's so, sometimes I just want to say it all the time, like, I survived, I beat cancer, like, I beat cancer, I did that. And I'm sure so many people, like I said, are probably annoyed about it, but guess what? I did it. And I did it with some amazing people by my side, and I don't think I'd be able to do it without those people. My mom being one of them, and my dad, and my brother, just my immediate family. My entire family was really amazing during all this, but especially my immediate family, I don't think I could have gone through this without them, because I'm so independent. I don't like depending on someone else, and during that time I was vulnerable, I was hurting, and they knew I didn't want help, but were still there to provide it when I needed it. And they were patient, my mom especially, for those days where I just really did not want to eat. For those days I just really just wanted to sleep. She was there. And my dad, my dad lives in a different state than I do, but he was FaceTime me every day. He texted me. He would make me laugh on the days where I didn't think a smile was a possibility. And my brother, he's just my best friend. And I didn't want to cry. I don't think if I didn't have him especially, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't say I wouldn't have made it, but like, I wouldn't have gone through it with such ease. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Everything's fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. But here I am. I'm alive. I'm turning 20 in a little over a month, and everything is falling into place. And I truly believe, not a lot of people say this, but I truly believe that cancer was a blessing in disguise. Which is kind of a stretch, because honestly, was it really a blessing? But I truly believe it did save my life. And it did really help me grow as a person, and help me have this new perspective on life that I don't think I ever would have had otherwise. And I'm grateful for that. So, here we are. 1 year later. One whole trip around the sun later. And I'm here. I'm alive and I'm healthy. I think I would like to do something like this, make yearly videos, like the 1 year anniversary, and doing like an update. And showing you how much I've grown as a person and like in life. But I don't know. Maybe we'll make it a yearly series. But that is my story. If you are ever concerned about your body, listen to it. Go to a doctor, get checked out. Just do what's best for you, and listen to your body. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I know it was definitely different than what it normally is, but I appreciate you watching it anyways. I promise I will soon, especially with winter break coming up, I'm going to try and film more videos that are more regular, but it's just hard between work and school. but I would love to get right back into it. And yes, so I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for being so supportive. If I could just hug all of you, I literally would. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.